My name is Emma Cole. I am 33 years old, and for a long time, I believed my life was safe. I had been married to Lucas Reed for 7 years. Our marriage was not exciting, not dramatic, and not full of big romantic moments, but it felt steady. Lucas was quiet and serious. He liked things done a certain way. Some people might call him controlling, but I called it reliable. He didn't surprise me, and I thought that was what love was supposed to feel like. Our days followed the same rhythm. I woke up early, made breakfast, and went to work. In the evenings, we sat across from each other at the table, eating dinner in comfortable silence. We talked about small things, work, errands, plans for the weekend. There were no loud arguments and no passionate conversations either. Everything was calm, predictable. I told myself that this was adulthood. This was stability. This was safety. My best friend was Nora Hayes. She had been in my life for years, long before I married Lucas. Nora was the opposite of me in every way. She was loud, emotional, and always surrounded by chaos. Her life was full of problems. Money troubles, broken relationships, lost jobs. She called me almost every day, usually in tears. And every time, I listened. I gave advice. I helped her fix one problem after another. I never complained. I believed that being a good friend meant always being there, even when it cost you energy, time, and peace. Nora often promised me one thing. I would never hurt you, Emma, she said. You're like family to me. I believed her without hesitation. Just like I believed in my marriage, I believed in our friendship. I thought trust was enough. I thought loyalty meant silence and endurance. I thought love meant staying, no matter what. Looking back now, I see how much of myself I gave away. I ignored the moments when I felt uncomfortable. I ignored the quiet voice inside me that asked for more. More honesty, more warmth, more respect. I told myself I was lucky. I had a husband. I had a best friend. I had a life that looked stable from the outside. I believed love meant safety. I was wrong. The night Nora called me, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her words. She told me she had lost her job. Then her voice broke again as she said her boyfriend had thrown her out. She had nowhere to go. No money. No plan. As I listened, my heart softened in a way that felt automatic, almost trained. I didn't pause to think. I didn't ask questions. I just said the words that came naturally to me. Come stay with us, I said. Just for a while. When I told Lucas, he didn't answer right away. He stood in the kitchen, quiet, thinking. For how long? He asked finally. Until she gets back on her feet, I replied. He nodded slowly. Okay. At the time, I thought that was kindness. I didn't realize it was permission given without limits. At first, Nora was exactly how I expected her to be, grateful and careful. She hugged me often and thanked me for everything. She cleaned the house without being asked. She cooked meals and told Lucas how lucky he was to have me. I felt proud, almost relieved. I told myself I had done the right thing. Helping her felt like proof that I was a good person, a good friend, a good wife. But comfort has a way of changing people. Slowly, Nora stopped asking before using my things. One morning, I opened my closet and noticed a dress missing. Later that day, she walked into the living room wearing it. I hope you don't mind, she said lightly. It looked lonely in there. She began using my perfume, my skincare, my favorite mug. When I mentioned it gently, she laughed. Emma, we're like sisters, she said. Why does it matter? It did matter. I just didn't say it out loud. The house began to feel different. Nora stopped looking for work seriously. She spent more time at home, waiting for Lucas to come back in the evenings. She sat close to him on the sofa, laughing loudly at things that weren't funny. She asked him questions about his day, about his thoughts, about his past. She listened with a focus that felt too intense, too personal. One night, Lucas said something that stayed with me. Nora is easy to talk to, he said casually. She listens. The words hit me harder than I expected. I listened too. I had always listened. But I smiled and said nothing. When I asked him later what he meant, he shrugged. Not like her, he added quickly, as if that explained everything. I started noticing how often my discomfort was explained away. When I hesitated, Nora said I was stressed. When I asked questions, Lucas said I was imagining things. I began to doubt myself. I wondered if I was being unfair, if I was being jealous, if I was being selfish for wanting space in my own home. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling something tighten in my chest. I told myself this was what kindness looked like. I told myself that good people didn't set rules. Good friends didn't complain. Good wives didn't question. I felt uncomfortable, but I told myself I was being selfish. After that, the pattern became impossible to ignore, yet impossible to prove. Nora started waiting for Lucas to come home. Not occasionally. Every evening. She would sit on the sofa with her legs folded beneath her, phone in hand, as if she had nowhere else to be. When Lucas walked through the door, her face lit up before mine did. "How was your day?" she asked quickly, already standing to take his coat. She listened closely, nodding, asking follow-up questions, laughing at the smallest details. It felt intimate in a way that made my chest tighten. Lucas noticed it too. One night, as we cleaned up after dinner, he said casually, "Nora is easy to talk to." The words landed between us like something sharp. "She listens," he added, almost thoughtfully. Emma felt something crack inside her. She had listened for years. She had listened when Lucas was tired, when he was frustrated, when he didn't know how to express himself. But she said nothing. She only smiled and put the plates away. The distance between them grew quietly. Lucas stayed longer in the living room. He answered her questions later, sometimes not at all. When she spoke, he looked at his phone. When she reached for him in bed, he turned away, his back stiff and unfamiliar. The silence wasn't loud, but it was heavy. It filled the room and pressed against her chest at night. When Emma finally tried to talk about it, both of them responded the same way. "You're imagining things," Lucas said, his voice calm, almost bored. Nora laughed softly and touched Emma's arm. "You've been working too much," she said. "You're stressed. You always overthink when you're tired." They said it so easily, so confidently, and because Emma had always trusted them, she believed them. Or at least, she tried to. She began questioning her own reactions. Maybe she was being sensitive. Maybe she was insecure. Maybe this was what adulthood looked like: quiet disappointment and unspoken resentment. At night, Emma lay awake beside Lucas, staring at the wall. The house was silent, but her mind was not. Every small moment replayed itself. Nora's laughter. Lucas's smile that no longer belonged to her. The way they shared looks that ended when she entered the room. She told herself she was dramatic. She told herself she was wrong. It felt safer to doubt herself than to accept what her instincts were screaming. One afternoon, Emma came home earlier than usual. The house felt different the moment she stepped inside. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that holds secrets. She heard voices in the kitchen, low, close. When they noticed her, both Lucas and Nora stepped apart too quickly. Nora smiled, wide and fast. "Oh, you're home early." "Yes," Emma said slowly. Lucas wouldn't meet her eyes. That night, she asked him directly. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "Is something going on between you and Nora?" Lucas sighed deeply, as if she had exhausted him. "Why do you always think the worst?" he asked. "Can't you just trust me?" Shame rushed through her. She felt small and foolish. She apologized. She apologized for asking a question that had been tearing her apart for weeks. That apology would later hurt more than the truth itself. After that, Emma stopped asking. She stopped pointing things out. She stopped speaking up when something felt wrong. The gaslighting had done its work. Every time doubt rose inside her, another voice answered it, softer but stronger: "You're wrong. You're imagining this." The marriage became quieter, heavier. The silence between Emma and Lucas was no longer peaceful, it was full of things left unsaid. Emma smiled through dinners, nodded through conversations, and cried silently in the shower where no one could hear her. Somewhere along the way, she stopped trusting her feelings. And once that happened, everything else became easy for them, and unbearable for her. A week later, Emma left work early because of a splitting headache. She wanted nothing more than to lie down in her own bed and rest. As she walked toward the house, she told herself that she was overreacting again, that the tension at home was only in her mind. She even felt a small sense of relief. Maybe she would arrive early, surprise Lucas, and everything would feel normal again. The moment she stepped inside, that hope disappeared. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful, empty in a way that made her skin prickle. No television. No footsteps. No voices. Emma slowly walked down the hallway. As she passed the bedroom, she noticed something that made her heart stop. The door was locked. Her hands went cold. She stood still, listening. At first, there was nothing. Then she heard it, soft laughter. Familiar laughter. Nora's laughter. Time seemed to slow. Emma's breath felt shallow as she reached for the spare key in the drawer nearby. Her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped it. For a brief moment, she hoped she was wrong. She hoped the door would open to something innocent. A misunderstanding. Anything else. She unlocked the door. The scene in front of her froze her in place. Nora screamed and pulled the sheet up to cover herself. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with panic. Lucas sat on the bed beside her, completely calm. He didn't rush. He didn't apologize. He simply reached down, picked up a towel from the floor, and wrapped it around his waist as if this were a minor inconvenience. Emma felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her. "I trusted you," she said. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Both of you." Nora started crying loudly. "Emma, please listen," she begged. "It's not what you think." "Don't," Emma said quietly. "Just don't." She looked at Lucas. "You let her live here. You watched me help her. You watched me doubt myself. And you did this." He said nothing. His silence was heavier than any excuse. "Get out," Emma said. Nora shook her head, still crying. "Emma." "Get out of my house," Emma repeated. "Both of you. Now." Nora packed quickly, sobbing the entire time. Lucas dressed slowly, without urgency, without shame. As Nora passed Emma, she said something that shattered what little strength Emma had left. "I never thought you'd react like this." In that moment, Emma understood the truth. Neither of them had ever respected her. Not her kindness. Not her trust. Not her boundaries. That door closing behind them ended her marriage, and her innocence. After they left, the house felt unfamiliar, like a place that no longer belonged to her. Emma sat on the edge of the bed for hours, staring at the wall. At first, there were no tears. Just silence. The kind that rings in your ears. Later that night, Lucas began sending messages. First came apologies. Then explanations. Then blame. "You pushed me away. You were distant. This didn't have to happen." Emma didn't reply. Eventually, the messages stopped. The silence returned, heavier than before. In the days that followed, Emma stayed alone in the house. Every room carried memories that now felt poisoned. The kitchen where she cooked for them. The sofa where Nora used to sit too close. The bedroom where she had apologized for asking the truth. One morning, Emma stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes looked tired, but something else was there too, clarity. That was the moment she understood. She packed her bags quietly. There was no screaming. No dramatic goodbye. She left the house, the marriage, and the friendship behind. Not because she was weak. Not because she was broken. But because she was finally awake. She realized betrayal doesn't begin in a bedroom. It begins when we silence ourselves. When we ignore our discomfort to keep the peace. When we choose familiarity over truth. Emma didn't lose two people that day. She lost the version of herself that believed love required endurance without boundaries. Walking away was not failure. It was self-respect. Now she knows this. Peace without truth is not peace. Love without respect is not love. And sometimes, losing people is the only way to find yourself again. If you believe boundaries are necessary in love, gently tap like. Share your thoughts or the lesson you took from this story in the comments. And subscribe to continue learning English through real-life stories that heal, awaken, and empower.